So last day, I started nudging you, Tucker, towards this weird formula manipulation zone, the ability to rewrite an equation in your head and memorize less. And I'm going to continue to push that all year. I made up some nonsense equations. Tucker, the first one is AB equals CDE plus F squared G. Yeah, I was feeling alphabetical for some reason. It wants me to get the D by itself. How would I do that, Tucker? You and I are going to walk through it. In my mind, or for real until I get good, I would put a dot above the D. What's going to drop down like a domino? What side? More specific, AB. Yes? How will I move the C and the E over? What are they doing to the D? The C and the E? Multiplying. Always think opposite. What's the opposite of multiplying? And I'm going to assume that part you've learned in your math skills. I am going to divide by a CE eventually. What about that F squared G, which is one term? How will I move that over? What's it doing to the D? So tell me what to write. And we said yesterday it's reverse BEDMAS. You don't do multiplication division first. You do that last. So we're going to do our subtraction first. Talk to me. Tell me what to write. Yep. Yes. Yes. And then all divided by? Yes. That's an equation for D. Hudson, you look it up because this is what we practiced yesterday. Ooh, Katie, same equation, but now we're going to get the F by itself. Again, so that we know what we're staring at. And if you haven't noticed, we don't move the thing that we're trying to get by itself. We shave everything else off around it, so it ends up isolated on its own. What's going to drop down like a domino? Yes. Do your adding and subtracting next. I do see an addition. What am I going to subtract over? Yes. How will I move the G over? Yes. And that would give me F squared equals AB minus CDE all over G. F what? F squared. Oh, how does one get rid of a squared? One wonders. I knew you had this. What this is going to allow me to do as the year progresses is instead of showing you every which way to do a question, I can show you how to do a question in one direction going forwards, and I can say to you, you can reverse it on your own. So maybe, oh, he gave me the coefficient of friction and he asked me to find the mass on the test. He can give me the mass. I can find the coefficient of friction. I can reverse it just by doing some basic formula manipulation. I'll teach you how to set stuff up, and then I'm going to say, now you can go to town. Ooh, Blake, I saved this one for you. What does it want me to get by itself? Now, you've heard me say this. I have said, is this a fraction? Everybody say yes. And then I have said, is there more than one thing on the top? And when the answer is yes, I've said something around the top. Okay, when we write this, Blake, there are brackets there. They're invisible, and we generally don't write them when we're handwriting, but we would have to put it in there on our calculator. That B is in a bracket. What does the B of BEDMAS stand for? If it's reverse BEDMAS, I'm doing anything in the brackets last. What's going to drop down? Oh, we're trying to get the B by itself. What's going to drop down like a domino? Yeah, the other side this time. Okay. Brackets last. I'm not even looking at the A. I'm looking at the C. What's the C doing to the bracket? So, yeah, and I usually go alphabetical, but if you went DC, I'd give you full credit for that. And now I just imagine that the A plus B has dropped down, and then I would say, ooh, does that bracket make any difference now? Is there anything on the bottom? Or no? Is there anything in front of the bracket? Or no? So now I can say those brackets aren't there anymore. Now I can get the B by itself. How will I move the A over? Yeah, and it's going to be, the B would drop down. It's going to be CD and minus A over here. That one will show up actually more often than you realize in disguise. But we'll do that one. The trickiest, by the way, is when the variable is on the bottom, but later on this year, I'll show you a good trick. We won't deal with stuff on the bottom. Well done. Here's one from our actual formula sheet. It says D equals V. I forgot to put the I, but D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. I want to get the A by itself. I can do this. I can do this. I got this. Yeah, you're up. Yes. Do your adding and subtracting next. So look for what's being added and or subtracted to the A. The half is being added to the A. Between them, there's a plus sign. I'm going to say this is going to sound horrible. I don't know how to make it polite. I'm going to say that's a bad guess. We were looking for plus signs. Where's the plus sign? You see it? What's past the plus sign? What's being added? What's being... How will I move the VT? So how will I move them over? Yes. That's what I would do next. Now, what two things are touching the A? A 0.5, it's a 1, it's a 0.5, and a t squared. Are there any signs between them? That means we're multiplying, so how do I move them over? 0.5 and the t squared. This one we're going to use fairly often. Acceleration, Nathan, you're going to find is a key concept in physics. You're going to hear me start to say, well, today, but next lesson for sure. What kills us, what does damage in collisions, in crashes, in falling, it's not your speed, it's your acceleration. If you can reduce the acceleration, the odds of survival go up. All of our car safety features over the last 80 or 90 years, they're all designed to make A smaller. If we can make A smaller, you're going to come out of the accident much better. So it's not speed that does damage. All of you have been going 100 kilometers per hour many times when you've been on the freeway. It's the acceleration that does damage. It's how fast you end up changing your velocity. It's how fast you slow down. Here's another one from our formula sheet. Yeah, we got this. Cool. What do they want me to get by itself? You can't see, sorry. It says VI. Can someone check on the formula sheet? Did I write D equals, and then in brackets, did I put VI plus VF times T, or did I put VF plus VI times T? Okay, you all know that's the row we're looking for. So Allie, Steve, Hudson, we're on the third row down on our formula sheet where it starts going VF equals VI plus AT. All of us, we're going to be flogging that row, those four equations, which are technically 16 equations in disguise. We're going to be flogging those to death. It doesn't matter if I flip them here because adding the order doesn't matter. It wants me to get the VI by itself right there. What's going to drop down like a domino? No, we're going to do that last. What's going to drop? What side are we on? Right side. So what's going to drop down like a dot? Yeah, go systematic. Don't try and jump to the punchline. Now, the VI is inside brackets, and I think this is what you were getting at. We're going to do inside the brackets last because it's reverse BADMAS. How would I move the T over? What's the T doing to the bracket? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. So, yes. How would I move the 2 over? Yes. And then in your imagination, I'll write it, but you can probably do this in your Sesame Street imagination. I would have the VF and the plus VI just drop down. And now the bracket has vanished because there's nothing left. How would I move the VF over? What's the VF doing to the VI? So, and I'm going to cheat with digital ink because I can. I think what you said is you would minus the VF over. Yeah, that is getting the VI by itself from that equation. Today, we're going to take what we did last day where I just listed the data out, and we're going to pull them out of word problems. Let's start the lesson. So to solve a problem, remember DFIC. What did DFIC stand for? List your data, find a formula, insert the numbers, crunch the answer. And again, Nolan, that's not the end-all be-all to solving physics, but what I am saying is if your page is blank, do that. That's a good place to start, and often partway through, you'll have your aha moment. Read along with me. It says this: an object starts out at rest and travels 12 meters over the next 3 seconds while accelerating constantly. Okay. Nate, what does A want me to find? Yeah, and I told you the other day, physics word problems, we're not going to try and trick you or confuse you. One of the nice things about physics word problems, it's going to be fairly obvious what they want us to find. I'm going to be lazy but organized. First of all, because it's part A, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say A equals question mark. I always, Georgia, write down what they asked me to find with a question mark next to it. Now I know what I'm focusing on. Now, Nate, we're going to go through the question, and we're looking for numbers and physics phrases. We should have underlined this physics phrase right there. Who remembers, what does at rest Tell me. Yeah. I have no idea what you said when you talked this loud. It's really. What's 0 meters per second? VI. All of you, if you want to, you can draw an arrow right there that says VI equals 0, and we'll list that, Nate, in our data. VI equals 0. And then we keep reading. I see a number, 12. What are the units next to the 12? So what's that a measure of? Time? No. Yeah, technically displacement, but I get distance and displacement mixed up verbally all the time, and you'll do the same thing because I'm a sucky teacher in that area. So we're just going to say, hey, D equals 12. Keep reading. What's the next thing you see? How do you know? Seconds. So you'll notice I didn't use any Q words in this question. You didn't see the word velocity or displacement or time. This is why I've said to you, today is the day you want to start making the effort to memorize the units. It's worth doing that. What you're going to hear me say very often, by the way, in this with these four kinematics equations, because each of them has four variables, you'll need three things to find a fourth. Do we know three things? Yes. So now, and all of you will play along on the home game, even though I'm picking on Nate, you'll follow along. You're all going to look at your green sheet. We're looking for an equation, only one, that has an A, a VI, a D, and a T in it. There is one, and only one. When you think you find it, read it out to me, please. D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Now, I'm not going to be fussy on vector notation, and I noticed I didn't even put the vector signs on the formula sheet. I hadn't even noticed that. I'm going to have to remedy that for next year. But for what it's worth, someone, I can't remember if it was this block, asked me, Mr. Dueck, I don't understand why you put the arrows on some of them. The ones that I put the arrows above, the ones that are vectors, they can be negative. Which one can't be negative? Okay. In other words, the ones that have arrows and can be negative, there's some kind of a directional component, because if you're going backwards, you'll let that be negative. Or if you're going down, you'll let that be negative. What are we trying to get by itself, Nate? What's going to drop down like a domino? Good. It's reverse BEDMAS, so we want to do any adding and subtracting next. How would I get the, oh, what would I add or subtract over? Yes? Keep going. And you'll notice I'm giving him fewer hints. Yep. And instead of one half, because having a fraction inside of a fraction scares you, I usually turn it into a 0.5, and don't forget the squared on the t, because it's a t squared. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go a equals like that. So we're going to get, and now we plug in the numbers, 12 minus 0 times 3 all over 0.5 times 3. Don't forget the squared. Nate, what's 0 times 3? Yeah, technically, Steven, this is going to vanish. I didn't make it vanish earlier just to show you where it would show up if VI wasn't 0. That's where it would end up if we hadn't started out at rest. All of you want to go to your calculators. All of you want to try typing this in. Actually, I can do this one in my head. It's going to be 24 divided by 9. 24 over 9 is 8 over 3. It's going to be 2.6 repeating, I think, but double check me. So you should have on your calculator showing on your screen right now 2.6666. If you don't, for all of this lesson, just quickly shoot your hand up. I'll come and look over your shoulder. This is your chance to find obscure issues and glitches and ways to type things on your specific calculator. Of course, I'm not going to go 2.666. I'm going to go to 3 sig figs. So that second 6, Nate, is it going to stay a 6 or become a 7? So, oh, change colors, Mr. Dueck. 2.66. Final thing, units. It's acceleration. What do I measure acceleration in? Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Dueck. You said 2.67. Yeah, duh. Sorry, my fault. Units. What do I measure acceleration in? And if you're not sure, don't be looking at me. Go look at other questions and see if I used units next to the word acceleration. Yeah. Yes. Brett, were you going to give me the answer, or did you have a question? Okay. Hey, Brett, let's do this next one. What does B want me to find? There's a word in front of the word speed because there's two velocities. Does this want me to find VI or VF? And again, I was going to say it's not rocket science. It will be actual rocket science in Physics 12 because we will actually do some rocket science. But what I mean for now is for the velocities, there's two of them. You'll have to read the time flow of the sentence to figure out, is this the earlier one? That's VI. Is this the later one? That's VF. For now, I'm just going to go like this. I'm not going to relist everything else because I have it right here. Brett, I'm looking for an equation. It has to have a VF, and then a VI, a D, and a T. I'll use an A if I have to, but if I can avoid it, I will, because if I got this wrong, then I'll be getting this wrong. So I only use found values if I have to. Which equation has a VF, a VI, a D, and a T in it? Read it to me, kiddo. I think there's I guess bracket VI plus VF, yes, and then close bracket times T. Oh, yeah. This one. D equals bracket VI plus VF times T over 2. And what am I trying to get by itself? The VF. What's going to drop down like a domino? Problem, I can't drop it down. I don't have enough room, so I'm going to have to move it sideways like a domino, which doesn't, well, anyways, I'm just running out of room. So I'm going to move the D here. That's what I would write first. What's the VF inside of? Starts with the letter B. Last. Outside the brackets. Deal with the T. What about the 2? So times the 2, divide the T. I agree with that. And then don't write this next bit down. Just imagine, in your imagination, imagine the VI plus the VF dropping down. It's sitting there. What am I trying to get by itself? The VF. How would I move the VI over? And it doesn't end up inside the fraction. It ends up beside the fraction. It's going to be minus, oh, minus VI. And then I left some room so I could fit the VF equals in the front there. It's going to be 2 times 12 divided by 3 minus 0. Will the minus 0 change anything? No. And in fact, I probably could have crossed the VI out earlier, but I'm showing you, Hudson, where the VI would have ended up had it not been 0. Go to your calculators. Should be 8, I think. Yeah, it's 24 divided by 3. Was he right? 8? Yeah. If you could go 0.0 or 0.00. I'm not going to be too fussy on that if it works out evenly. If it doesn't work out evenly, try and go to 3 sig figs. That's just so that all of our answer keys look the same. Units, Brett. That was amazing. It sounded like your voice came from over there. Your lips hardly moved. That was like America's Got Talent, but Canadian and less talent. Hey, let's swim with dolphins. A dolphin accelerates from 1 meter per second to 7.6 meters per second in 5.5 seconds. Okay. Luke, what does A want me to find? What does part A want me to find, which usually comes before the letter B in most of our alphabets? Yeah, not so smart now. Okay. A equals question mark? What's that 1.0? Yeah, and I got the units, Captain Obvious. As a physics concept, what's that 1.0? Is it VF or VI? Let's keep reading. What's that 7.6? Also meters per second. Which one occurred first chronologically in the time flow? I think the 1 did. So I think it's going to be VI equals 1. VF equals 7.6. Now, the other thing I'm doing, Cole, is I'm checking units to make sure there's no yucky units, no kilometers, no hours, no giga something. I'm just scanning that. If my units are all good, I'm fine with you not putting the units in your questions as long as you're checking. As soon as they get yucky, then I'll start putting units down to make sure I track that. What's that 5.5? Which equation has an A, a VF, a VI, and a T in it? There is one. Read it to me. Stop. Don't write it down. Is it not on your formula sheet right in front of you right now, Allie? You see where it is on the green sheet? You see where it is on the green sheet? You can write it down if you want to, but is it on your green sheet? Stare at it. All of you. I'm serious. What are we trying to get by itself? Look at it in your head. Look at it. Imagine a dot above the A. Luke, what's going to drop down like a domino? Then what? Yep. Yep. That equals, if you can, on the homework, if you can get there, Katie, without writing out the original equation, if you feel comfortable enough that you can do the rewrite in your head and go straight to this, I'm fine with that. Now, you'll find two of the equations are yuckier to work with, and sometimes it's easier to write them out. Two of them are easier to work with, and you'll get comfortable doing them in your head. But some of you will get comfortable doing all four in your head. Let's plug in the numbers. It's going to be 7.6 minus 1 divided by 5.5. Is this a fraction? Yeah. Is there more than one thing on the top? Those of you that don't have the fraction button got to put brackets around the top. I can do this in my head. Sure, I can. It's going to be 6.6 divided by 5.5 divided by 11 divided by, it's going to be 6 divided by 5. Is it 1.2, I think? Yeah. I'll even show off and add an extra zero because I'm proud of myself. I can do math in my head. I grew up without a calculator. That's how old I am. Units. Yeah. I was right around the first generation where they started bringing calculators into schools. But in elementary school, we weren't allowed to use calculators. When I was about 9 years old, my dad brought home the first calculator we had ever seen. And I swear to you, this is true. We sat in the living room, passing it from person to person, just typing in math questions and hitting equal. Because we knew how much writing it was to do the math by hand. Now you guys take them for granted. Charlie, what's B want me to find? Give me an equation that has a D, a VI, a VF, and a T. Try not to use the A unless you can't find another one. What do I need to get by itself? Already is. Someone jumped or not? I wasn't looking. Did some? Okay. Sorry, YouTube. I apologize if you're wearing headphones. It's going to be 1 plus 7.6, close bracket, times 5.5 divided by 2. Okay. This one is going to have brackets inside of the brackets. All of us are going to have to type at least one set of brackets. Those of you with the fraction button, hit your fraction button. Steve, do you have the fraction button on your calculator? Sorry? Do you know if you have the fraction button? Okay, we're going to pause right now. You were away for this. So I would say to myself, is this a fraction? Say yes. Is there more than one thing on the top? I have to open up a bracket just for the top, but then there's a bracket inside the 1 and the 7.6, so I open up a second bracket, 1 plus 7.6. I close off the mini bracket times 5.5. Have I reached the end of the top? Close it off. Divided by 2. Did I make a mistake? Quick like a bunny. And if you did this right, should have 23.65 If you didn't get 23.65, now's the chance to check because this is a brackets inside of a brackets. Well, first of all, let's go to 3 sig figs. So, Charlie, is that 6 going to stay a 6 or become a 7? I'll go 23.7. Just a habit. It just will in all my answer keys. I had somebody, I think it was Joey, you were asking me earlier this morning, I'm not getting the same answer. I said, well, I just rounded it to 3 sig figs. You did get the same answer. I just rounded off. It's a habit. It's because on the old Math 12 provincial, they always wanted every answer to 3 sig figs. So they took marks off if you didn't. So I started basically making it a habit for the grade 11s so that by the time they got to grade 12, any of them that wrote the provincial wouldn't lose silly marks. Units, speaking of silly marks. Example 3. Car moving at 30 meters per second to the right slows down at 6.8 meters per second squared. Okay. Malcolm, what's A asking me to find? Good. It said how far, so you're going to have to match certain English words to their physics concept. How far is going to be a distance, displacement, displacement. D equals question mark. What's that 30? Yeah, it's our initial velocity. What's that 6.8? For a candy, can anybody see the mistake that we just made? Sorry? Okay. Now, I'm not going to try and trick you on this every time. Sometimes I'll put the negative in the question to be nice, but just to make sure you don't read mindlessly, yeah, to keep you on your toes, we're going to have to add a negative. It is slowing down. Problem. I told you, Malcolm, I need 3 things to find the 4th. I've only written 2 things. What's the 3rd thing that I know? So you ready? Everybody look up. Underline this word. Stopping. What's that tell me? Ah, or comes to a stop, or comes to rest. Those are the 3 big ones that you'll see. There's my hidden extra physics variable. So from rest, VI is 0, comes to rest or comes to a stop, VF is 0. Which equation? Is he right? Don't write it down. It's on your sheet, yes? Stare at it. Stare at it. And all of you, also because I'm building in that subconscious circuit that I told you, your eyes will actually start to look in the right place without you realizing it. What are we trying to get by itself, Malcolm? The D. Okay, see, look at the D. Imagine a little dot above it. See it there? What's going to drop down like a domino? Then what? What am I going to do with the VI squared? How do I know? Yes. Then what? I want to get the D by itself, so the 2 and the A are both timesing, so they'll both end up on the bottom. Yes, there is an equation for displacement that I don't need to memorize. I will get good enough to derive it. It's going to be 0 squared minus 30 squared all over 2 times negative 9.8. Stephen, is this a fraction? Is there more than one thing on the top? Brackets around the top. Oh, is there more than one thing on the bottom? Brackets around the bottom too. Try typing this in. And again, you'll notice I'm not bringing my calculator up as often. I'm forcing you to figure it out so you can't just copy from how I type it. Should get a positive answer because I'm pretty sure it ended up moving forwards. Malcolm, what'd you get? That seems wrong, very wrong to me. 66.2. Don't clear your calculator. Is there a squared on the D? Just because there's a squared in the question, we only square root if there's a squared on the thing we're trying to get by itself. I'm glad you made that silly mistake because now none of us will. Way to take one for the team. That was very generous of you. So if you hit your x squared button, it should get back to this. No, it still won't. So don't clear your calculator. Give me a second here. 66 point what? 2. 66.2 units displacement. Meters. B. B. Ooh. Georgia, what does B want me to find? Read me the first 2 words of part B. How long is a tricky phrase in English? Because if I say to you, how long was the movie? You know that means time. If I say to you, how long is a football field? You don't say 2 hours. You know from the context that means distance. So in this question here, reading this, is this asking me to find time or distance? And how do you know? How do you know it's not asking me to find distance? And this is so stupid obvious that it's tough. What did I just find in part A? I found the displacement. I don't think I'm ever going to say find the displacement part A. Part B, find the displacement. You already found it. So it's got to be time. In other words, if you had found time already and I said how far, you would say, he's not asking me to find time twice in a row. This time it means distance. I won't use the how far phrase on a test. I'll be very careful in my wording. But in the homework, because it's used colloquially in English, I will do that and force you just to figure out from the context what they're asking me at. So here, yeah, how long? T. Uh, Georgia, I'm not going to relist everything because I have it written up here. Can you find me an equation that has a T, a VI, an A, and a VF in it? I'll use the D if I have to, but I'll try and avoid it. Is she correct? Yes, she is. If you want to write that down, you can, or you can stare it on your green sheet. Let's see if we can get the T by itself. Imagine a dot above the T. What's going to drop down like a domino? Then what? Yes? Yes? Then what? Yeah. You get a little nerdy adrenaline rush doing math in your head? That's what I feel all the time. Sorry. Yeah. VF was 0, squadoosh. VI was 30. A was negative 6.8. It's time. I better get a positive. If I don't, I've messed up. You can close the door all the way behind you, the way it was when you left in the first place. YouTube's going to wonder at that comment. Just had somebody come back to my classroom. Georgia, what'd you get? I think you're going to be in the 5 point somethings, 4 point somethings. Okay, try again. I better type this in myself because I should practice too. Brackets around the top, 0 minus 30, close bracket, divided by negative 6.8. 4.41, yes, and change. Units, time. Read number 4 to yourself. And on your own, without blurting out the answer, ask yourself, what are they asking me to find? And then I'll pick on one of you. Anna, what are they asking me to find in number 4? Don't panic. It'll be the last sentence probably. It'll say find the example 4. Yeah. Is that okay? Let's write down A equals question mark. Okay, Anna, what's that 15? What are the units next to that 15? Meters per second, so it's a velocity. Is that the initial or the final velocity? I think it's initial because that's in the chronological flow of this, how we started. So, Anna, let's write down VI equals 15. Ooh, I see a 5. Yes? What are the units next to the 5? Time. I see an 85. What are the units next to the 85? Yes. Technically displacement, but I'm your teacher and I'm doing it wonky. Okay, there it is. I got 3 things. I can find a fourth. Anna, we're looking for an equation that has an A, a VI, a T, and a D in it. There is one. Keep going. AT squared. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one is complicated enough. This one I'll often write out. VIT plus a half AT squared. The 2 toughest ones to work with are the second and third ones. Although if you get comfortable enough and good enough that you can rewrite those ones, more power to you. What am I trying to get by itself, Anna? The A. What's going to drop down like a domino? Good. Then we do our adding and subtracting, if there is any. Is there a plus sign over on the right-hand side? We are okay. What's being added or subtracted to the A? Yes, VIT. And then how will I move the 0.5 and the t squared over? Yep, that equals A. And now we carefully plug in the numbers. It's going to be 85. Actually, I might be able to do this in my head. Minus 15. Yes, I can. Times 5. All divided by 0.5 times 5 squared. Oh, yeah, this is easy. 85 minus 75 is 10. 10 divided by 0.5 is going to be 20. It's going to be 20 over 25. It's going to be 4 over 5. 0.8, I think. Double check me. All of you need to try this, because once in a while I'll get the answers wrong on purpose just to annoy you. That was a pretty good cover. Actually, I should just be honest. Once in a while when I'm doing it in my head, I'll do it wrong, not on purpose, and you'll have to check me. Is it 0.8? Yeah? 0.80, fine. 0.800, fine. Meters, oh, units per second squared, yes? Okay. 2 more, we're done. I like example 5, I like example 5, I like example 5, I like example 5. Example 5 is a nice question. Why would I say that? Did you hear me say it's going to be on the test, or did you notice when your teacher tended to emphasize it? Good, 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 good. What do you like about it, Mr. Dick? Actually, first of all, I like the fact that this is a legit application. Let's suppose you've been hired to design a runway, and you know that the jet airliner needs a takeoff velocity of 288 kilometers per hour in order to safely leave the ground. I think I looked these numbers up. I think it's the Boeing 707 I was pulling numbers from. If the jet's engines can accelerate the jet forward at 3.5 meters per second squared, which is what I lifted from their website. Ooh, okay, Medina, what's this asking me to find? What is the... So minimum length, what physics concept is length going to match up with? Time? Okay, you know what? Medina, it's asking me to find this. Now, the other reason I like this question, I like this question, I like this question is because it's yucky. What's yucky about it? Have you spotted it already? Okay, we're going to have to do a unit conversion. On your test, I'm not going to give you 10 unit conversions. I will probably give you 1. We did a whole unit on unit conversions. You wrote a quest on unit conversions. I'm not going to flog it to death, except cars and the public use kilometers per hour. Physics, we use meters per second. So every once in a while, just to keep your skills sharp, I'll do that unit conversion. So, ooh, that 288, is that VI or VF? Yeah, that's our takeoff at the end of the runway. Oh, end of the runway. That's a VF. So let's write down VF equals 288 Let's write kilometers per hour. And then Medina will put an equal sign, and all of you convert that. It's going to be something to do with the 3.6, but I can't remember. Is it divided by 3.6? So when you go 288 divided by 3.6, what do you get? Even? Meters per second. Okay. Medina, I also see a 3.5. What are the units next to that 3.5? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's acceleration. And I would argue, Medina, even if I hadn't said the word accelerate right there, you can figure it out just from the units. Yes? That's why I'm saying it's worth memorizing what units go with what. Medina, we have a problem. I said you need three things to find the fourth, and I've only written down two things, VF and A. I guess I can't do this. Or can I? What else do I know? Yeah. I'm making the assumption that all of you have either been in a plane taking off or watched a plane taking off. They do not come squealing around the corner onto the runway at full speed and gun it. What do they always do? Got to wait for clearance. Medina, I'm looking for an equation that's got a D, a VF, an A, and a VI in it. There is one. Yeah. VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD is how we'll say that in the fewest syllables. Yes, I actually can. So VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. You see it? Don't write it down. Look at it. Stare at it, all of you. Find it on the green sheet. It's the fourth one. Medina, what are we trying to get by itself? Look at the equation now. Imagine a dot above the D. Talk to me. What's going to drop down like a domino? The VF squared. Yep. Then what? Is there anything being added or subtracted to the D? Well, how am I going to move the VI squared over? Yes. Good. And then I think there's a 2 and an A. Yes? What are they doing to the D? So? Yes. That equals D. So it's going to be 80 squared minus 0 squared all over 2 times 3.5. Oh, Medina, do you have the fancy schmancy fraction button? Oh, okay, fine. Stephen, is this a fraction? Is there more than one thing on the top? Brackets around the top. Is there more than one thing on the bottom? Brackets around the bottom. I'll repeat that for a while and then I'll assume you've internalized it, but can't repeat it too often. Medina, tell me what you got when you're done. I think you get something in the 900s, I think, which. So I'm going to write 914 meters. Now, in real life, you would not build the runway only this long because this would require the plane to have its back wheels on the edge of the pavement, and this would have its front wheels just about hitting the grass when it took up. You probably triple this, but you got to start with this. This would be your first calculations if you were the airport designer. Yeah, you almost certainly triple or quadruple it for a safety redundancy. Or if a plane was looking to make an emergency landing, it couldn't land on an airport shorter than this. We're going to do example 6 on Tuesday. We're going to finish with example 7. I like example 7. I like example 7. And it's a cool question. So the title of this was applications of acceleration or applications. I think that's what I called it. We're looking for areas that we use this. Ali, another place we use this is in RCMP crash scene investigation. So here's an example. An RCMP officer is investigating a car crash. At the scene of the accident, there are skid marks that are 32.5 meters long. The driver of the car was speaking on a cell phone during the accident, and the cell phone records the sound of the skid for 1.2 seconds. The speed limit on the road is 60 kilometers per hour. The driver claims he was not speeding. We have no witnesses. Should the driver be charged with speeding? So here's the first question, folks. What do we need to find? The eye. Let's write down VI equals question mark. And then Allie, we're going to read through this looking for numbers and physics words. What's the 32.5? What are the units next to the 32.5, Allie? So displacement, yes? I see a 1.2. What are the units next to the 1.2? So, yep. I don't think the 60 is part of the question. I think when I find VI, I'm going to ask, is it bigger or smaller than 60? But I got a problem. I only have two things. So here's something I'm going to ask you, and I'm not going to repeat myself. You'll have to remember this. It's kind of Captain Obvious. What's VF of every car accident ever? There's no car accidents that continue to skid and skid, and they eventually come to a stop. So VF is zero. I'm not going to give you a VF in a car accident question. I'm going to now pretend that you can all cleverly conclude, yeah, zero. Allie, I'm looking for an equation that's got a D, a VI, a T, and a VF. I know you were away, but you can find it from that row on your green sheet. I think there's a bracket in there, but yes. D equals bracket VI plus VF times T all over 2. And we're trying to get the VI by itself. What's the VI inside of? It starts with the letter B. Bed mass, reverse bed mass. Do the brackets last. So first of all, what's going to drop down like a domino? Good. Outside the brackets, what'll I do with that T? Yep. What about that 2? Yep. And then in your imagination, just imagine equals VI plus VF. I'm not even going to write it this time. I need to move the VF over. There's no more bracket because I took care of that. Not inside the fraction, but beside the fraction. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go like this. So it's going to be 2 times 32.5 divided by 1.2. And then the minus 0 isn't going to change anything, but had it not been 0, that's where it would have gone. Should we charge this person? Units. What are the units next to this number, Verizon people? This is 54.2 meters per second. How does one convert meters per second to the proper units, Verizon people, of kilometers per hour? Okay, go answer button times 3.6. How fast was this person going? If this person had injured someone, this would hold up in a court of law. You could charge them with vehicular manslaughter. Oh, and Allie, this is the minimum speed. He might have slowed down before skidding. Could have been going faster. At least this fast. Now, before we go further, you haven't learned much physics yet. I had to contrive the cell phone picking up the sound of the skid. We'll revisit this question near the end of the year. You can actually get VI from nothing but the skid marks. But first, I have to teach you how to calculate the force of friction, and then I have to show you the work energy theorem. But it's totally doable. When you see the RCP out there with tape measures and things, it's totally calculatable from that. You don't need the cell phone picking up the sound of a skid. Hang on before you. I think we can say this, right? Yeah. So you guys got to go to your soccer game. I rushed a little bit, but I got it through. Or volleyball, soccer. Yep. Okay. We're good. And in fact, all of us, we're going to hit pause here. We're going to do example 6 next class. It's an example of a question where you have to find something in order to find something, and also it's playground slides, which is just good physics from your childhood. I'll tell you which questions that I'm going to assign on Tuesday if in the next 12 minutes you want to get a head start. Here's what I assign my block H's. Oh, geez, Dueck, you filled out the wrong one. What did you fill? Did you do the block A one today, Mr. Dueck? Oh, you did. That's why you were so confused. Okay. You can circle number one. You can circle number three. You can circle number four. You can cross out number five. Circle six. Circle seven. Circle eight. Circle nine. Put a star next to it. That means I haven't done one like that with you. I'm going to see if you can figure it out for yourself. Circle 10. Cross out 11. Cross out 12. Circle 13, circle 14, cross out 15, cross out 16. I don't think so. I think circle 13, circle 14, cross out 15, cross out 16. Circle 17, put a star next to 18. I haven't done one like that with you. Put a star next to 19. Not only haven't I done one like that with you, that one's tricky enough that I've made a QR code that will take you to a YouTube solution where I walk you through number 19. Number 20, put a star next to, although it's a clone of number 19. If you figure out number 19, then you'll figure out number 20. Okay, so some of those I just haven't done. There's about 12 minutes left. You can probably get, I see your hand, Medina, be right there. You can probably get 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7 done in class if you want to get a head start. But you don't need to work on these on the weekend unless you know you're going to be crazy busy next week. Let me just hit pause on my recording.